You're missing from my collection.
Evening. Peppa and Suzy were sitting on the rug, watching videos on a tablet. An advertisement for Labubu toys appeared. One toy with crimson eyes and a wide smile frozen on the screen. Its head suddenly jerked. It stared directly into the camera. The next morning, Peppa found a plain gray box without any labels on the doorstep. Inside was the very figurine. Plastic, cold to the touch. Peppa placed it on a shelf. She was distracted for a second. When she turned around, the shelf was empty. The figurine was standing on a chair. Its smile seemed wider. Black, tar-like drops were dripping from the corners of its mouth. Peppa went to visit Suzy. Her room smelled of paint and dust. Suzy was excited about her own Labubu toy. On all the walls, Peppa noticed identical smiling faces. In the corner, jars with spiders stood. Suzy disappeared. Peppa walked down the corridor, which seemed longer. A sticky black trail stretched from under the basement door. Tiny figurines lay along it. Their crimson eyes flickered in the semi-darkness. They vibrated, emitting a faint screech. Peppa descended into the basement. The cold air smelled of old paint. Suzy sat in the middle of the floor. Around her, dozens, hundreds of identical figurines, all looking at Peppa with crimson points for eyes. Suzy slowly turned around. Her eyes burned bright red. Her mouth was stretched into a horrible, unnatural smile.
You're missing from my collection.
The figurines around moved slightly, crawling toward each other, sticking together to form a large, fluid creature, the Gatherer. One huge eye stared at Peppa intently. Peppa backed away, pressing her back against a closed door. The Gatherer approached. Its coldness froze her breath. The skin on Peppa's arm tingled. It became smooth and shiny like plastic. In the giant pupil of the Gatherer's eye reflected her figure, surrounded by hundreds of smiling faces. Peppa was standing in the yard, looking at the sky through a telescope when she saw a shooting star, except it wasn't a star, but something angular flickering with red lights. It fell behind a hill silently. A black flash lit up the sky. From the woods came metallic screeches and bubbling sounds. Peppa's phone rang. A video call from Suzy. Suzy looked frightened.
Peppa, I saw it from my window. Don't go there.
The connection distorted. Suzy's face twitched and froze in a strange grimace before the screen went dark. Peppa walked with a flashlight through heavy air. Black slime covered tree trunks. Footsteps echoed around her. Not behind her, but from all sides. The clearing was empty except for a pulsating black vortex in its center, made of sludge and metal. And nearby stood a tall, thin creature with charred black skin, cracked like dry earth. Its long arms had many joints. Instead of a face, a glowing red slit, it was rummaging through debris. Peppa saw Suzy's phone nearby and tried to grab it. Suddenly, the creature straightened sharply. Its face turned toward Peppa. An piercing metallic scream filled the air as black tentacles slithered out of the vortex. Peppa ran back, her mind echoing with Suzy's distorted voice. "Stay, watch." She stopped at a shed, turned around. The forest was dark and calm again. She took a breath. She looked up at its roof. There stood Suzy, her skin gray and cracked with tiny red points for eyes, her mouth stretched into a horrifying smile. Suzy waved her arms and jumped down. A sudden movement. She grabbed Peppa by both wrists instantly. Behind Suzy, other figures emerged from shadows. Gray, cracked with red-eyed points, they silently encircled Peppa. Suzy tilted her grotesquely smiling head toward Peppa's face. From her throat burst that same metallic scream, the one heard in the woods. In Peppa's eyes reflected Suzy's red points, and suddenly faint red glow ignited within her own pupils as well. Peppa and her family decided to go on a trip. They were sitting in the waiting hall. Suddenly, the loudspeaker horn on the pole deformed. The announcement over the loudspeaker was distorted. A deep mechanical growl filled the hall. A huge metallic mouth with sharp teeth gaped on the ceiling. Black oily liquid dripped from it. The speaker mouth whispered,
Last train arriving at the station.
Peppa pressed into her seat. Her parents did not notice. Suitcases at the passengers' feet moved on their own. Locks glowed red. Thin black tentacles emerged from the gaps, wrapping around people's legs. The family stepped onto the platform. Evening wind. Shadows of people on the asphalt stopped matching their owners. They stretched out, became thinner, and gained tentacles and hooks. The shadow tentacles reached toward rear legs, wrapping around ankles. People froze in place. A train approached. Its windows were a solid, impenetrable blackness. No reflections, no light inside. The doors opened. From the darkness of the carriages came the same mechanical whisper. The train is waiting. The shadow tentacles suddenly jerked. Several passengers were dragged toward the open doors. They screamed as they were pulled into the darkness. The door slammed shut. The train left, and the platform emptied except for Peppa's family standing at the edge. The speaker mouth on the pole was wheezing. Its metal jaws clamped shut and then opened again. Next, on the rails below, pools of oily liquid darkened and pulsed, taking on distorted faces of missing passengers. Silent screams frozen in time. Shadows on the platform stirred again, reaching for Peppa's family's legs. Cold tentacles wrapped around their shoes. Black drops from the speaker dripped onto Peppa's shoulder, leaving gray stains on her pink skin. From a distant tunnel, two red lights appeared. Headlights of a new train approaching silently, its windows as black as before. Impenetrable darkness. Peppa couldn't move, just like everyone else. Only her eyes reflected the red headlights of the approaching train. Peppa and George splashed in a sunny pool when George suddenly froze, pointed trembling finger downward, and started crying as several dark, blurry figures moved smoothly underwater past stairs and through its bottom. The water around them turned icy and viscous like thick syrup. The figures sped up, surrounding George, whose frightened scream abruptly stopped into muffled bubbling sounds. The bubbles turned black as Peppa desperately climbed out onto the edge. Peppa stood trembling as water dripped onto warm tiles below her feet. She looked down at her reflection in wet tile, her face still beneath water, pressed against surface with black eye sockets staring upward, mouth twisted in silent scream. She recoiled and ran to change room. The floor was wet, mirrors fogged up thickly, drops fell from ceiling, creating puddles reflecting dim light. Dark shadows flickered within them. Outside door was covered with shiny black film. Peppa hurriedly wiped mirror to see her reflection calmly standing there, not mimicking movements, but smiling broadly with black holes instead of eyes. Peppa burst into shower stall, slammed door shut, turned tap sharply. The shower head poured thick black liquid that dripped onto her leg, burning coldly through skin. Liquid flowed down, forming a cold tentacle wrapping around her ankle. Behind foggy glass silhouettes reached out with hands pressed against outside surface. Peppa leaned back against cold tiles. The tentacle tightened further, causing numbness to creep upward along her leg. The silhouettes outside began emerging through water reflection, Instead of Peppa's face, a mask with hollow black eye sockets and a grotesque frozen smile stared back at her. Suddenly, tiny black points appeared at corners of Peppa's eyes. They floated toward pupils. One finger twitched involuntarily, a sign of unnatural movement, as monsters surrounded her silently inside, but no sound came from within.